Good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. We are thankful to be here yet again. And as we continue to say, what an honor. We are thankful to be able to preach and teach the word of Hashem as he has called us to do so. It was just humbling, very humbling to us. We're so thankful for this opportunity. We're going to go ahead and get in to the message this morning. If you would, let us all stand. Where do you think we're going? Probably Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. So Proverbs, and we'll get into Ecclesiastes too, but we will dig into the word this morning. So Proverbs 15 and 28. The heart of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil. So let us go ahead and lift up our eyes. Shem, Adonai, Most High, Elyon, thank you for this day that you've given us. You have sanctified, you have set this day apart. It is particular to you, and may it be particular to us. We recognize you in this day as the one who sets us apart when we keep and preserve this day. You worked for 6 days, and on the seventh day you rested. We just recognize you as our Elohim. We thank you for this day. Thank you for this word that you've given us, how it is always particular to us, but may it be particular to those that are here, and also those that might listen later or even be listening through Facebook. Hashem, we just lift you up on high. You are Elohim and we are your people. Just give us a clear mind that we might be able to speak your word in truth, but make it easy to understand to where we can apply it to our lives. May we be able to make connections to where we can make sense of your word. We lift you up on high. There is no one like you, no one beside you. Baruch Hashem, hallelujah, amen. So, Proverbs 15 and 28. The heart of the righteous ponders to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil. So, the basics, we all know you want to think before you act. Think before you speak. So, I think we had talked about it a couple of weeks ago. There's a difference between responding and reacting. Okay? To react is out of impulse. That is your mixed up emotion. You're driven by emotion. You're driven by fear, anger, whatever it is. You're mad at the person that just cut you off on the highway. Now you're saying a few choice words or whatever. So that is acting out of impulse. That is how you react to a situation. To respond to a situation is for you to take a step back, step out of yourself, really consider what is going on, and then respond. Then take action. So, the heart of the righteous ponders how to answer. So the heart is mind, it is leb, mind, will, heart, knowledge, thinking, reflection, and memory. So we were doing a little bit of a study this morning on the difference between the mind and the heart. Okay? So if you look up the word mind in Hebrew, it's not what you think it is. Okay? So if you look up those words, there's many different words that can be used for mind. Nefesh, ruach, peh. So the nefesh and the ruach, that's your soul. That's your spirit. The peh is the mouth. Okay? So you can speak your mind when you are using your mouth. But if you look up mind, it is nefesh, ruach, it's your spirit. It's your mouth. But if you look up heart, every time that you look up heart, it is either labeb, labab, or leb. Okay? So it's always the same. It's always heart. So I'm really thinking and considering here, what do you think with? What do you think with? What do you use to think? Because if you look up leb, it's thinking. The heart is the memory, the thinking, the thought. That is what your heart is. Mind, will, heart, knowledge, thinking, reflection, memory. Okay, so I really consider that. Just chew on that for a minute. Intellect. This is your leb. The faculty of reasoning and understanding objectively. And we've talked about that over the past couple of weeks. The difference between thinking subjectively and objectively. The context is the general, how it defines the specific. And that is how you define what's going on, the truth and the fact. Okay? So that's subject versus objectivity. Objectivity is to step away. It's to step out of how you feel and look at it in reality. What is really going on here? Okay? Sometimes the reality of it can be kind of harsh. But that's nevertheless, it's still truth. So, and the way that we can understand that and get that better is if you step out of reality and you don't have a job. Okay? You don't have a job. What are you going to do? The reality of it is, I don't have a job, I need a job. Okay? That's the reality of it. And that is, let me see if I can remember what it's called. Radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is accepting your current reality. Just because you accept your current reality doesn't mean it has to stay the way it is. Okay? Accepting your current reality is the objectivity, it's the truth and the fact, and it helps you to move forward in your life. That's when you start putting pieces together. That is radical acceptance. This is my life right now. If I want it to change, I accept it for what it is now, and I'm ready to move forward. That is radical acceptance. So, the intellect, this is your leb, your heart, the faculty of reasoning and understanding objectively with regard to abstract or academic matters. So academic, that's your ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. And then you have abstract. An abstract verb is considering something theoretically or separately from something else. So you're thinking of it together or as its own. But nevertheless, you are meditating on it. You're thinking about it. So your heart is your thought process. Your heart is your mind. So, the heart of the righteous ponders how to answer. So you are thinking, this is the heart of the righteous, what's correct? Zadik. That is just, lawful, right, righteous, correct. The heart of the one who wants to be correct, what do? They study. That study is dagah or hagah. It is to moan, mutter. They meditate. They devise, they plot, they ponder, they imagine different scenarios. Okay? But the root of it and what we want to get in this morning is they study. The heart of the righteous studies how to answer. That answer is anah. It is how is he going to respond, testify, speak, or answer. I don't know why now in my life I've grown to have such an interest in reading. Reading. Okay? If you don't like reading, that's fine. Get an audiobook. You want to learn something? Read about it. Listen to it. Okay? So, I've grown fond of reading. And anything you can learn from. Okay? Any type of reading you can learn from. So, a wise heart, or the heart of the righteous, studies to answer. So the mind, the heart, the thoughts, or the thinking of the right or correct meditate or study to respond. So how am I going to respond to this? How is this in comparison with the rest of the verse? But the mouth of the wicked pours out evil. They don't think about anything that they're saying. Have you ever heard of word vomit? You just speak. So, do you ever get off topic when you speak? Get off topic? Okay. That is unrighteous. Speaks with no purpose or resolve. So there's a difference between the heart of the righteous and the mouth of the wicked that just pours out trouble. Not helping anybody. This has no context. There is a really good quote out there, and is, we are not listening to understand, but rather waiting to respond. Okay? If you're listening to somebody and something catches your attention, you're just waiting for them to shut up so you can talk. Right? You're not listening to understand. You are listening so you can respond. Everybody does it. Don't tell me you don't. You don't. Because we catch something that's interesting to us and we're just waiting for them to be quiet so we can talk. Instead of listening and actually gaining something. And Hashem gave it to me this way. Notice it is Shema Yisrael and not Debar Yisrael. What does that mean? Listen, not speak. Debar is word. So it's hear, O Israel, not speak, O Israel. So, he studies, unlike the wicked who just pours out anything. You're not helping anybody. You only create more trouble if you, in layman's terms, word vomit. You get off topic. You speak with no purpose or resolve. You're just talking to be heard. Okay? So the question this morning is, and the basics of what we're getting into, what are you studying? What are you studying? What do you want to know about? There are a million books out there on whatever you want to know about. Anything you want to know about. Keeping it in context of what we're talking about today, I love psychology. Okay? So what interests you? How do you correlate what you study to Hashem in Scripture? I love psychology. What is psychology? It is the study of the human mind. Okay? Study of the human mind and its functions. Why this does this to that to this, who, and why they're connected. Especially those affecting your behavior in a given context. So that is how the subject lends meaning to the objective. How it's affecting your behavior in context. The mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. So whatever situation or activity that you are in, your psychology or your psyche or your psychic abilities, that's just to think with your mind. It's not, I'm thinking what you're thinking, because you can't do that. And usually what people, all that's trickery anyway, because they are governing what is going on in your head based on your body language. That's what they do. So they study body language to get what's going on in your mind. But anyway, I love psychology. It's the study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting your behavior in any given context. It's your mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. So this is what I'm thinking and this is how I'm feeling in this situation. That's psychology. Now, while we're talking about this, I wrote something. I ain't got enough room right here, so I gotta write it all right here. Okay, so we did a daily discipline this week, and we've been adding them to Facebook if you ever want to watch them there now. I've got a pretty good response on people looking at it there. We cannot change anyone's mind. You can't. And we talked about that last week. You cannot change anybody's mind. You can hold them captive and say you're going to do this, but even think about the children of Israel while they were in Egypt. They still wanted to be free. They were slaves, but they still wanted to be free. They still did what they told them to do, but that doesn't mean they wanted to. Can't change anybody's mind, even though you want to. Okay? We cannot change anyone's mind. We cannot get them to see what we see. The only way someone is going to consider what you are saying to them is if they decide to change their own mind based on whether or not what you are telling them resonates. It makes sense to them. They're making connections. Okay? So, get to know somebody. If I want to try to connect with my father, what am I going to do? Let's talk about fishing. Right? So get to know somebody. You can't catch every fish, can you? Nope. Does that make you give up? Let's talk about determination. Right? That's how you connect. That's how you get people to see what you're talking about. So get to know someone. Be relatable. Help people connect the dots through stories that they can relate to. So, you can't change anybody's mind. You can't. And we're stubborn. Okay? If you can first understand that the first rule of engagement is everyone is right, that's including yourself, in your own perspective. That's why we argue with people, because we think that we're right. Okay? If you can first understand that, it's a good position. You know why? Because you can step out and consider, I might not always be right. I might have to change. So it's a good place to be if you consider and you know that everybody wants to be right. Greater is the desire to be right than the desire to be loved. People who consider to love each other, they argue because they want to be right. And then one person just gives up or they reconcile. Right? So, greater is the desire to be right. Ecclesiastes 12. So the question this morning is, what are you studying? What interests you? How does it correlate to Scripture? I want to know why the mind is the way that it is, why we feel the way that we do, why we do the things that we do. Ecclesiastes 12. And then, and we'll talk about that too as we continue on, when I, through this, elevate your meaning in life, through better definitions of what life means to you, everybody on the same page? When I do that for you and elevate your meaning, because that's what people want. They want purpose in life. If people see no outcome and people see no purpose, what do? They give up. Okay? So if I can help elevate your purpose and meaning in your life, what does that do for me? It elevates my purpose and meaning. Connection is very important in life. Okay? So, Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 9. And besides being wise, Koheleth also taught the people knowledge, and he listened and sought out, laid in order many proverbs. So, Koheleth, he wanted to study. If you look all through Ecclesiastes, what it is about. I gave my heart to this, and I did this, and I didn't lose wisdom, and I wanted riches, and then I drank, and whatever. It's all in there. He said, I gave my heart to the desires of my heart. He said, but I did not lose my wisdom. Okay? So why did he do that? He did that for his own benefit, but what does it say he's doing right here? He's writing it down and sharing it. He has elevated his own meaning and helped others to elevate their meaning. Have greater purpose in life. Okay? I'm sorry, but I'm not just a lump of flesh. Life is more than just this. It's greater than this. Okay? It's greater than what you expect it to be. But that's all about how you define your life. If you define your life as this is it and it gets no better, that's living in the past, and we'll talk about that too. So, he set in order many proverbs. What is a proverb? Anybody know what a proverb is? A proverb is a similitude. What is a similitude? It is a parable. What is parable? First word, para. What does that mean? Side by side. Okay? So a parable, a proverb, is something that is similar. What are we talking about? Making connections, okay? If you want to get across to somebody to get them to understand what you're talking about, tell them stories that they can relate to. A teacher, a pastor, whatever, preacher is a great storyteller. Because you have to get the people to understand in a way, and we'll get to that too, they can make connections based on stuff that they understand. That's a good teacher, okay? Someone who gets people to make connections on things that they understand. You know why that we relate a lot to people at the kitchen table? You know why? Because food is something that everyone understands, right? Food is something that everyone understands. I just helped you make a connection. Get it? Get it. Got it? Good. Gravy. Okay. So, continuing on. What is a proverb? It's a similitude. It's a similarity. It is this matches up with this. And if you look through Proverbs, what is he saying? Let's just take the one that comes to my mind. A contentious wife is like a continual dropping. Okay? So what do you have to do? You have to think of the continual dropping in order to understand what a contentious wife is like. It's almost like water torture. It'll continue to drop on your forehead until you go crazy. Okay? It's better to stay in a corner of a house than in a wide room with a contentious woman. What does that mean? To solitude or seclude yourself in the corner of a house than someone who always wants to quarrel. Okay? So he is making connections here with things that you can understand. It's called a parable. It's called a proverb. So continuing on. Not only did he learn for himself, but he also learned so he could share, which elevated his meaning. Koheleth sought out to find out words of delight, things that make people happy, and words of truth. So it is justice. What were we talking about? In Proverbs, he said that the heart of the righteous studies to answer. That's what he's doing here. Words of truth, he studied. Rightly written. The words of the wise are like goads. So what is a goad? It is a prong. What does it do? It directs cattle. The words of the wise, sometimes they are unpleasant, but they are putting you in the right direction. That's what a goad is. Okay? And as nails driven by the masters of collection. So the nails driven, they talked about how it is a wide head driven. Sometimes, this is what it takes, isn't it? Sometimes to be driven correctly. So they were given by one shepherd. And besides these, my son, be warned, the making of many books has no end. I'm telling you, anything that you want to learn is out there. It's out there. Anything you want to study, anything you want to know about, it's out there for you. Okay? We have gotten so far away from reading. Not only have we gotten so far away from reading, we've got so far away from writing. Right? Once you get out of school, how much more are you writing? What words are you learning? Okay? Some people have trouble even reading the scripture. So people have gotten away from reading and writing. So those things benefit you in your life. So anything you want to learn, it's out there for you. We now depend on every single thing or every bit of information that we get from the TV, social media, and YouTube. Where are the books? You can tell a lot about a man by his library. Okay? What kind of books do you have? I don't have any books. It says a lot. Think about that. Okay, chew on that. So, and besides these, my son, be warned, the making of many books has no end, and much study is a wearying of the flesh. So what does that mean? If you look at the easy English version, it says, there are many books. If you study them all, you'll be very tired. You can't study every book. Okay? If you tried to study every book, you would be up 24 hours a day, and you would be exhausted. Okay? So, but notice what Solomon wanted to do here. He wanted to seek out to find wisdom, the things that were delightful. I wanted truth. Okay? He wanted to know what was right. So he studied. He studied. He studied to answer. The wise man, that's chachma. It is wise, skillful, learned, intelligent, wise-hearted. The ISV says, too much study wearies the body. Too much study wearies the body. It'll wear you out. You can't learn it on. And he learned that the hard way. He tried to learn everything that was done under the sun, and he said it's futility. You can't. So what we need to learn this morning is what interests you. How is it going to benefit your life? And how is it going to help others? By helping others, you're going to elevate your meaning. By helping them elevate their meaning. We got time. If I got time, we got time. Okay? If I got time to read, you got time to read. You just got to figure out what your priority is. And what is the most important thing to you. So, let's get into some facts. Are you ready to have your mind blown? Okay. So, Yahoo's 2.0 petabyte computational center. So the computational center, all the information where it goes in. Okay. So a petabyte. Okay. A petabyte is 200 million tall filing cabinets. Just so we can kind of connect here and make sense of it. 500 billion pages of standard printed text. Can't even think about it. Can't even fathom it. 500 billion pages of standard printed text. So that's how much information is in there. Okay? Yahoo's 2.0 petabyte computational center, which can process 24 billion events a day. 24 billion events a day is a jaw-dropping 20% smaller than the capacity of a single brain. 20% smaller than the capacity of a single brain. Okay? Humans have an average of 70,000 thoughts per day. How many are good and how many are bad? You know, think of your brain as a river. We're going to say this while we're thinking about it. Think of your brain as a river. Okay? Every thought that you have in your brain, is it true? No, it's not true. But you know what? When you meditate on something long enough, it becomes truth. and you think that it's true. Okay, so the exercise that I want to give you is when you have thoughts going through your brain, connect and be able to discern what is true and what is false based on fact. Okay, you're going to have to put it into two columns. Is this fact or is this fiction? Because what we do when these thoughts come through our brain is we attach ourselves to them and we ride the wave. Just because you're riding the wave of that thought does not make it true. Okay, so stop meditating on it because it's not the truth. You have the ability to get rid of thoughts in your brain. Whatever you attach yourself to, that is your responsibility. You have control over that. So, humans have an average of 70,000 thoughts per day. The human brain has 86 billion neurons. A neuron is, it uses electrical and chemical signals to send information between the brain, inside the brain, and the spinal cord to the entire body. That's what your neurons are. You have 86 billion of those. 400 miles of capillaries. Capillaries control movement of water and oxygen and other essential substances between your blood and your brain. Okay? So you have 400 miles of those in your brain. 100,000 miles of axons. Axons carry electrical impulses that are the means of communication. And you have 100,000 miles of those. Communication within the brain and between the brain and the rest of the body. This is within your brain and your central nervous system. That is composed of your brain and your spinal cord. Central nervous system. And the last one we have, continue on. Enough to circle the earth 4 times. 1,000 miles of axons is enough to circle the earth 4 times. That's all in your brain. And the last one is we have more than 10 trillion synapses. And synapses connect neurons, those are the ones that send the signals, in the brain to neurons in the rest of your body. This is the synapses. They're making connections in your brain, okay? The rest of your body, and from the neurons to the muscles. So these are the ones, how they're all connected. It makes you move. Your brain is sending signals, and now it's telling the muscles to do this and that, okay? And the robot. Okay. So this is your brain. And then we have, over a lifetime, scientists estimate that the modern human brain will hold up to 1 quadrillion pieces of information. 1 quadrillion pieces. Did y'all even know that was a number? Okay, here we go. Yes. Quadrillion, quad is 4. Quadrillion pieces of information. That is 1 followed by 15 zeros. Pieces of information through your lifetime. The brain is awesome. It has given you this mind to use it, not to abuse it. Okay? Don't abuse your mind. It's your responsibility. So, that's how awesome that God is. That's how awesome that He has created this mind. Proverbs 4. Proverbs 4 and verse 1, children, listen to the discipline of a father. So discipline is to control. That is, control yourself. Listen to the discipline of a father and give attention to know understanding. As we continue on, we'll help you to understand what it means to understand. For I gave you good instructions. So what did He give you? Everybody knows what instructions are. Let's make some connections here. Whenever you have to put a baby crib together, I've done that before, or you have to put a piece of furniture together, what happens? It comes with instructions. It comes with a map. So this is the way that this has to be put together. What did He say? I give you good instructions. So it's not only, here it is, put it together. This goes with this. This goes with that. Here's your connections, okay? And then you got 4 screws left over and you don't know where they go. But you didn't follow the instructions. So you got to follow the map. I give you good instructions. I give you a good map. Do not forsake my Torah. That's my way. Do not forsake my way. I'm leading you, guiding you. And notice who is who here. This is David talking to Solomon, but Solomon is writing it down. Okay? I give you good instruction. I'm showing you the way. Do not forsake my Torah. That is my way. For I was my father's son, tender, and the only one in the eyes of my mother. Then he taught me and said to me, let your heart, that is your mind, that is your memory, that is your leb. Let your leb hold fast to my words. So you're going to remember them. Store them in your memory. Guard my commands and live. So how do we store things in our mind? I think there are three different ways. One is through an exceptional act. Okay, so if you've ever had a traumatic event happen in your life, this is the negative side of it, but that sticks with you. Okay, so one, extraordinarily event. I think the three are an extraordinary event. So that could be a good extraordinary event. So think about any time that you were successful. Think about running a race. Think about anything like that. That will help you store memories. The other thing is the desire to do it. If you are passionate about it, your brain knows you want to store it. And the last one is, anybody got an idea? How do you store information? Repetitive. Repeat it. That's how you store information. Continue to repeat it to yourself, and you will store it. Okay? So, he wants you to hold fast. Let your mind, your memory, hold fast my words, dabar. Guard my commands, that is shamar. You're going to protect my commands and live. Okay? So this is your life. Get wisdom. Get understanding. Do not forget, do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Wisdom is chachma. Understanding is b'nai. Banah. So, get wisdom. Get understanding. Do not forget it, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not leave her and let her guard you. So, wisdom is important in your life. Look at the next verse. How important is wisdom? If you look in the King James Version, it says it's the principal thing. If we had a title for this message, it would be Wisdom is Chief. Wisdom is chief. Okay? So if you are not wise, and even as it says in Proverbs, the one who is wise for himself. But if you are foolish, you'll smart for it, I think is what it says. You're the one that's going to suffer for being willfully ignorant. So what are you studying? What is your attention on? Get wisdom, get understanding. So you can study as many books as you want to, but if you cannot make connections between them, if you cannot make sense of it, that's what understanding is. Okay? That's what understanding is. It's to make a connection. And we make connections how? Based on things that are familiar to us. That's how we make connections. So he said, get wisdom, get skill, chakma, get understanding, banah. Do not forget it. Do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not leave her and let her guard you. So if you are wise, what does it do? It protects you. It guards you. Now, the beginning of wisdom is verse 7. Do not leave her, let her guard you. Love her and let her watch over you. Wisdom watches over you. Okay? Preservation. Verse 7 in the King James Version, it says, wisdom is the principal thing. Principle. So principle is Rashith. It is the first. It is the best. It is the beginning. It is the chief. It is a choice part. It is the principal thing in order of things. In order of things, wisdom is number one. Highest rank. Wisdom is number one. So what does he do? He gives us a charge. Get wisdom! Exclamation point. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Feel. Why did we go through all that stuff about the brain? There's a reason. So you know that you can fill it with information. Okay? How you fill your brain with information is your responsibility. Okay? We can do things that are acceptable, or we can fill our brains with things that are unacceptable and useless. But it's your responsibility how you fill this brain with what type of knowledge that you want to know. So he said the principal thing is get wisdom, get skill. Wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. So that get is kana. It is to get, acquire. with all you're getting. Get wisdom, get chachma, get that skill. Get wisdom, acquire it, possess it, obtain it, own it. And then we have binah. It is understanding. With all the wisdom that you gain, be able to say why. Be able to tell someone and be able to relay that message. That's the understanding. I think, and we say this continually, it was Albert Einstein who said, if you cannot simply explain something, you do not understand it well enough. So you must be able to simply explain something in order for people to get it. Okay? So, with all you're getting, get understanding. So what is understanding? Let's put it in a way we can all understand. It is to make good connections. This is linked to that which makes this. Okay? So understanding means to make sense of it. It means to make sense of something. Why? That's the understanding. How something works. That's understanding. What in connectedness or connection, what does it look like? What is understanding? It's to make sense of it. Now, I'm definitely a person who believes in opposites. So we'll say this first. Giving concepts that are easy to make connections. If you relate to somebody, you know what they like. Okay? If I told you that going through your life, you probably are having a struggle right now because you don't have the proper tools. It's kind of like trying to beat a nail down with a screwdriver. If you feel like you're having a hard time in life, you're probably not going in the direction because you don't have the proper understanding. Okay? You're not using the right tools. So what are you going to do? How can I get the right tools? To where I can understand this better and sufficiently do the job. That's something we can all understand. Okay? So, you're making good connection, giving concepts that are easy to make connections. Now, the opposite of this, what is understanding? Understanding is making sense of something. If you have a puzzled look on your face, and sometimes some of y'all have puzzled looks on your face. If you have a puzzled look on your face, like gabbly-hoo, you do not understand. Why do you not understand? It's because you cannot connect it with things that you are familiar to. That's why you can't make the connection. That's why you don't understand. That's why good teachers are good storytellers. You connect with things that are familiar to you. A parable, similitude, proverb. The proverbs are what? Similitudes, parables. This is like this. I know about that, so it must be like this, and now I get it. This is where expression, influence, and the ability to relate comes in. Remember, you can't change anybody's mind, right? The only way that you can get someone to listen to what you're saying is if it makes sense to them. They got to change their own mind based on whether it's relatable. The stories of life help us to do what? Relate. Remember, we're all in this together. What's the last part? Alone. Okay? My story can help you. Okay? But I don't know everything that you're going through. You might be able to relate to my story, and that's great. But it's going to have to make sense to you in your own way, to where you can understand it. Here's another tip. This is another exercise. If you do not understand something, repeat it. If someone is talking to you and you don't understand it, repeat what they said. But try to repeat it in a way you can understand it. Make sense? Get that? Repeat it. Repeat it in a way that you understand it until you get it. If you're having a hard time. So, stories of life, it helps us to understand a good teacher is a good storyteller. Our brains love patterns. They like making connections. The mind prefers pattern over improved process. So it would rather stick to the old ways instead of doing something new, right? Everybody can relate to that. Yes, we're making connections this morning. We're connecting. We would rather be right than have to change our minds. Remember? Because everybody has a desire to be right. That's Joe Caruso. The mind prefers pattern over improved process. We would rather be right than to have to change our mind. Your brain wants familiar routine and something it recognizes based on past experiences. Now, this was a pretty good exercise that was in that book. So belief is based on past experiences, okay? So belief is based on past experiences. When you step off the sidewalk, you have belief that your foot will plant and you'll continue to go on. Why? Because of past experiences, right? Okay? So faith is different. Faith is to not know your circumstances. So that's why they talk about, and this is what he was saying, the leap of faith. When you are doing anything new in your life, do you usually just leap for it? No. What do? You take baby steps. Why do you take baby steps? Because your foot is still planted in the back and you can step backwards if you want to. But a leap of faith, in order for someone to believe or have faith in something, what do they have to do? Fully commit. You have to fully commit in order to leap. Why? Because both your feet are off the ground. That's a leap of faith. It's because you believe in it so much, you are committed to it so much that you're going headlong. It is what it is, what the leap of faith is. It's comparable to jumping out of a plane, okay? You don't know your outcome. Your parachute might not open, but you jump in the present moment knowing everything's going to be okay. Okay? We relate that to a baby. Okay? If your baby is crying or if your baby is okay, what do? You coddle it. Everything's okay. You know what the most important thing to you right now is? This present moment. And there was another saying, and it was beautiful. Forever in the present. How true is that? Forever in the present. You are not in the future. You are not in the past. And what that means is you can learn from the past and grow from it, but you can't live in the future because it causes anxiety. But here is the awesome part about it. Everything that comes to you in your life, there is no need to be anxious over it. Why? Because you are fully equipped to take care of it. So don't worry about what's to come. Because just like everything else that happened in your life, you took care of it when you lived presently. Is that right? So, forever in the present. It's not what's happening back here. It's not what's going to happen. I'm here. So, I don't even remember where we're at. Okay, so get wisdom. Get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. So make connections. Be able to make connections. What story are you telling yourself? And those are the things that help us to make sense of it. Okay? Exalt her, and let her uplift you. So you're exalting wisdom. Love wisdom. Let it be the principal thing. Let it be the chief. And what will it do to you? It'll lift you up. It will guide you. She brings you esteem. That's honor, glory. When you embrace her, she gives you gives your head a wreath of esteem. So you're crowned with glory when you hold on to wisdom. And you seek wisdom. You embrace it. She gives your head a wreath of esteem. She shields you with an adorning crown. A blessed crown. Hear my son and accept my words, and let the years of your life be many. When you are wise, it will extend your life. And let the years of your life be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom, skill, chachma. I have led you in straight paths. Remember, the brain likes what? Familiarity. It likes pattern. It likes what it's used to. Okay? But can you do new things? Absolutely. But what is it going to take? A leap of faith. But you will only take that leap when you are committed. To jump out of a plane, you got to be 100% all in. That is the leap of faith. And he was talking about in that book, his mother, I think she had some type of cancer, or someone that he was talking to And he was talking to her husband. Let me get the story right. He was talking to her husband, and he asked the husband, how is she doing with everything after she's been diagnosed? So it wasn't her, it wasn't his mother, it was his friend's wife. How's she doing? How's everything going? And he goes, about the cancer. She goes, don't you worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. So that is complete faith. It is to jump without knowing the consequences. Because the unknown is what scares us. Can I get a admit? The unknown is what scares us. So you don't know if your parachute's going to open or if you're going to land, but you still take the leap of faith, not knowing. But like the baby, we're making that connection. Everything's going to be okay. The baby is not worrying about the future when you tell it that. The baby is not worried about the past. The baby is worried about the present moment, because I know that everything is going to be okay. Because if you are functioning out of fear, you will not function. So you have to do what? Let go. If you let go, your psychic energy, what you put your attention into, can focus on love and not fear. Because every emotion is governed by two emotions, and that's love and fear. But once you let go of the fear, you can focus your energy into love. So, do not forsake her. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in straight paths. When you walk, your steps shall not be hindered. Remember, your brain likes patterns. It likes routine. If you run, you shall not stumble. Hold fast to discipline. Do not let her go, or do not let go. Watch over her, for she is your life. That was it. Yeah. Hold fast to discipline. Do not let go. Let me see where I was at. Proverbs 4-13. Yep. Hold fast discipline. Do not let go. Watch over her, for she is your life. So, making connections. Our brains love patterns. I want you to get this. So remember we were talking about Shema over Debar. So listen, speak less. It's not speak, O Israel. It is Shema, O Israel. Make your connections. Now, every person, and I love this thought, every person that you are talking with is giving you a piece of themselves. Notice, we've talked about that before. Who's the most important person in your life? It's you. So when you talk, what are you talking about? Your perspective of life. Notice how many times people say, I, me, and mine. Right? When they're talking to you. It's because their life. It's their life. And they are giving you a piece of their life when you are talking to them. So what's the best thing to do? Listen. Listen. I love the thought that people are sharing things with me. What is connectedness? Okay, connectedness is I understand that I don't know it all, but you have a piece of information that I need. And we are all connected. So something that you know, I can learn from you. How do we learn? We learn from other people's mistakes and our own mistakes. So learn, grow. Remember, every person you're talking to is giving you a piece of themselves. Notice, and it's awesome when you start to notice it, because everybody is giving you a piece of their mind, how they have lived their life and what they're experiencing. I love it. It's awesome. So every person you speak with, if they are comfortable with you, because usually if you talk to anybody, eventually they'll just start spitting out everything that's going on. So if they are comfortable with you, they are sharing a piece of themselves with you. They are telling you their story. Pay attention, and you might learn something. Shema Yisrael. Okay? We have been called to listen more than debar, to speak. Remember, wisdom is chief. It's chief. Ecclesiastes 7. Ecclesiastes 7:1. Oh, I love it. So good. This is the hard part. Okay, guys? This is the hard part of the message. Ecclesiastes 7:1. A name, that is a good name. Everybody knows what Shem is. Character, reputation, memorial. How people remember you. So I'm going to ask you that this morning. How are you going to be remembered? That is a good name because he continues on and he talks about your death. Because death is appointed for everyone. Okay? Consider it. That's what he says. Consider that everyone will end up in the morgue and in the grave. Okay? So how you live your life is very important. It's more important than your day of death. The name is better than the precious oil, and the day of death than one's day of birth. Why? Because when you're new, you don't have anything to say. You're learning. You're growing. You have no life. You have not lived life. Okay? So one's death is better than one's birth. Why? Because you have a eulogy. What is the eulogy about? It's about your life. How people have experienced you. What you have taught people in your life. So, how are people going to remember you? What are they going to say about you? If you want to be honest and open with yourself, ask someone today what they think about you. What do you really think about me? If they really care for you, they'll tell you the truth, and it could be good or bad. You have this, but you also have this. So, what are people going to say about you? They're saying it already. How will you be remembered? One's death is better than one's birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. You're learning. You're getting knowledge from people. For that is the end of all men. The end of all men is what? The house of mourning. The end of all men is death. So the living take it to heart. If you are alive, realize and consider that one day you're going to die. So what is your opportunity now? I can't believe we've never been taught that. It's to live. It's to live your life to the fullest. Whatever that means to you, like we talked about last week, your meaning is not my meaning. So what is the meaning of life? It is particular and peculiar to each one of us. Now, there was Friedman, Benny Friedman's dad, Friedman. His dad, he was talking about, and he said that everyone has a gift, okay? I know what my gift is. It's the gift of gab. Okay, I know what my gift is, okay? He said, you have been given a gift to use it in the service of God. What is your gift? Every single person has a gift. He talked about money. He said, if you've been given an abundance of money, you share it. You share it with others. Find out what your gift is and share it. Every single person has a gift. And you know what else I believe? Every single person has a calling. You have a calling on your life. You have been called to do something. And what I believe is, you know your calling. And you know what it is? The thing you don't want to do. Because it's hard. Because it's going to take effort. Because it's going to take time. That's your calling. It's usually the thing you don't want to do. You're scared about. We all have a calling. So, continuing on. Where are we at? It is a good name. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living take it to heart. Realize that you have a death. You have a day of dying. What are you going to do in between your birth and your death? Sorrow is better than laughter. Wow. I really like laughing though. But sorrow is better than laughter. Why? Because when you're laughing and having a good time, you are not learning. There is no concern. And usually when I'm having a good day, I mess it up. Because I say something because I'm just spitting out the mouth. I'm not preserving myself. I'm not disciplining myself. And then I say something that I regret. So learn how to discipline yourself even when you're having good days. But sorrow is better than laughter. Wow, that's harsh. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the heart, or by the sadness of the face, the heart becomes better. When you are sad, what are you doing? You want to know why. You start searching. You start seeking. So when your face is sad, your heart becomes better because you want to find the answer. The righteous heart studies to respond. So being sad is good. Why? Because ultimately it is elevating your meaning. It is elevating your life. You are becoming a better person. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of rejoicing. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. So, what are we getting out of this? Wisdom comes through, the hard part, pain. Wisdom comes through suffering. It comes through heartache and sadness. That's the hard part. Through the dropping of the face, the sadness of the face, the mind, the memory, the heart is made better. For as the crackling of the thorns under the pot, so is the laughter of the fool. It is just for a moment. It's loud. Notice this too. The one who laughs the loudest is usually the one that's hurting the most. So just remember that. Okay? As the laughter of a fool, that is empty. The oppression makes a wise one mad. That is fraud. Fraud makes a wise person foolish. Okay, so if you can be bribed, if you can be taken over by fraud, and the bribe destroys the heart. It becomes foolish. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. So it doesn't, y'all, we need to know this, okay? Everybody listen up just real quick, okay? It doesn't matter how you start and when you start. It matters how you finish. It doesn't matter how you start and when you start. All that matters is how you finish. What did he say right here? The end of a matter is better than its beginning. It's sketchy in the beginning. But the more that you learn and the more that you grow, the more you understand and the better your end will be. The patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. I like that quote. He taught me, I asked for patience and he gave me difficult situations in which I had no control over, where I was forced to wait. That is what it means to be patient. If you have a solid time where you're being made to wait, that is a good time to think. That is a great time to just consider. And there is also a difference between concern and worry. Okay? Concern is coming up with ideas. Worry is letting your ideas overtake you. There's a difference between concern and worry. Concern is good. Worry bad. Okay? Being concerned over something is okay. But worrying about something never did you any good. Okay? Worrying about it, did it change the outcome? No, it did not. Okay? And whether it happened or whether it did happen, it didn't change anything about it. So why are you worried about it? Worry serves you no purpose. Concern helps you to figure out an idea. Don't worry about it. Try to figure it out. So, the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Do not be hasty. We talked about that. Working in impulse. Hasty in your spirit. That is your nefesh, your spirit, your mind. To be provoked. For wrath rests in the bosom of fools. That is how you react versus responding. Do not say, why were the former days better than these? For it is not wise of you to ask about this. Okay. They were right, yatab, to be good. Well, make the thing good, right, beautiful, do right to be successful. Notice, we usually think well of the past, right? Past days were so much better. Everybody does it. I remember when I was young and full of fervor. Make up my own words there. Fervor. I was just passionate. I could do this and listen to an old person talk for a while. I remember when I was young and I could do this. We usually think well of the past. We do. We usually think well of the past, even though the reality of it is there was no more or less trouble. Right? Yes. There was no more or less trouble. We just remembered the good parts. It's the highlights. Everybody ready for the reel of the highlights? That's all you remember is the good times. I remember when I could do that. I could run a mile in the snow with only one boot on. Okay. Anyway, so we usually remember the good parts. Okay, the highlights. Also, we can live in the past. How do we live in the past? Okay. Living in the past can be bad for you. Living in the past means missing past relationships. But notice how we still think that that relationship was good. Okay? I think that relationship was good because you're only seeing the highlights of it, even though the reality of it is there was no less or greater bad. Missing past relationships, regretting decisions you've made. Not forgiving yourself even though the person you are today is not the person you were. That's how you live in the past. Holding grudges against people who did you wrong. You're still living in the past. Not living presently. Remember, forever in the present. Letting past events pervert your current perception. So you must think that everyone is the same. Thinking everyone is the same. That's the next. Thinking everyone is the same. People never change. Saying things are always going to be this way. That is how you live in the past. It's never going to change. It's never going to get any better. This is just how it is. You're not living in the present. You're living in the past. Thinking everyone is the same. People never change. Saying things are always going to be this way. Thinking you cannot move on and things cannot get better. That is living in the past. Let's move on together. We miss out on new opportunities, new relationships, good people, new promises, mental wellness, because we are stuck in the past. Elevating my purpose and teaching you what I know elevates your purpose. Ultimately, elevating my purpose. It helps you to elevate your meaning of life. How you define your situation is the story you tell yourself. It could be a good story, it could be a bad story. We talked about that this week too. We all have a story. Who you allow in your life are people that validate your story, whether that is good or bad. Okay? If you have a bad self-image, you disrespect yourself. Who are you going to allow in your life? The people that validate that story. People that disrespect you. Okay? So until you have a better self-image, you are not going to allow people in your life that validate that better self-image. You're going to continue to think about yourself negatively. Okay? I can't remember what the two words were. I can't remember. But we allow people to stay in our lives that validate our stories, whether that is good or bad. We do not like people in our lives that contradict our stories. Think about coming out of religion. Right? You only want people, remember being dyed-in-the-wool independent missionary Baptist? If you weren't an independent missionary Baptist, you were not going to heaven. And everyone that got to heaven converted. Right? You only want people in your life that validate your story. And anyone that contradicts your story, you don't want them to go there. Okay, so your life and your behavior, how you behave in your life, is based on how you define your story. What is define? It's coming up with a definition. What it means to you. Keeping it in context. The story you tell yourself. Now, we all have personal myths. Some of those personal myths might be, it can't get better. It can't get better. It will never get better. I cannot change. I cannot move forward. It will always be this way. Until you shift the context, you are going to continue to stay where you are. Remember that this life is for living. We all have personal myths. And remember that river? That's a thought that you ride. And you don't have to. You can get off that boat. How you define your situation, the story that you tell yourself. We got a charge at the very end of this. Educate yourself. If you want to get better, if you want to heal, if you want a better life, if you don't like the current situation that you are in, find better definitions. Find a better way to define it. Educate yourself. Wisdom is chief. Read. read. If you don't want to read, that's fine. Get an audiobook. Listen to it. Write down notes. The charge is read and write. Start writing stuff down. If you want to remember it, you got to write it down. Everybody have a blessed Sabbath. Shabbat shalom.